Hello, everyone, and welcome again back to Behind the Lab. I'm Tom Morrissey, Theater Now New York's artistic director.
And I'm Colleen Harris. I'm the managing director. This is our series where we talk to the members of our musical writers lab about their process and their projects. Today, we are thrilled to introduce you to AJ Freeman.
So we'll get to AJ in just a moment. However, I want to also hope that you will follow us at Theater Now. Our handle is at Theater Now NY, and our website is www.tnmy.org.
Also, make sure that you subscribe to this channel on YouTube so that you don't miss any of our other Behind the Lab series videos. Now, here's AJ.
Hi, I'm AJ Freeman, and I'm a lyricist and librettist.
AJ, I'm so excited to have you with me today. We have a lot to talk about. You're a really prolific writer, so we're going to be talking about several different projects that you have going on. We'll be talking about Hay Fever, which is your new musical that is in development with Theater Now. It's going to have a reading in April. We'll talk more about that a little bit later in the video. We're also going to talk about Ant and Grasshopper, your musical that was recently published in our anthology and is now licensable through MTI. And we'll be talking about Derailed, which is a show in very early stages, but we'll get to see a clip from that and Hay Fever. But before we go into all of those individual projects, I'd like to just ask you more generally about the type of writer you are. What would you say is your writing style?
I don't know that I think that I have a writing style, but a little while back, someone sort of told me that they think of me as a comedy writer, and that was news to me. But I think that might be the case, is that a lot of my work is straight up zany, silly comedy. But I, as a writer, think it's fun to write in as many styles as possible, or delve into as many different characters or styles as possible. So I don't think I have a style, but others I think would say that I'm primarily a comedy writer.
Got it. I can definitely see that. Where do you think that style came from? Was it from, your favorite musicals growing up? I mean, it's hard to choose just one, I'm sure. For me, it was like I went from Peter Pan to My Fair Lady to Rent very quickly. But what were your favorites? And
Oh, that's a progression.
can you sort of draw a line between your influences and your favorites in the work that you do?
So I grew up watching a lot of movie musicals with my mom. And so I think I was maybe influenced by the style of those MGM musicals of the 40s and 50s that are very bubbly and silly in a lot of ways. And so probably an influence without me even knowing it was the writing style of Compton and Green. Really respect them. And they did a lot of writing lyrics and screenplays and librettos together as well. And so I think that was probably an influence. Although when I was growing up and watching these movies, it never really occurred to me that I could also be someone who wrote them. I saw it as from a performance standpoint. And so I pursued performing for a while. And it was maybe 12 years ago or so that I even realized, oh, I could be on the other side of the table. I could write.
And now you do, and you write with so many different composers. We're going to talk about 3 separate projects in a little while. We're going to hear 2 separate songs, and they're all with different composers. I'm wondering, how do you juggle so many different projects at the same time? And do they influence one another at all?
I think I'm working on so many projects right now by accident. And I think it's because I told myself, since I'm so early in my career and I'm really just starting out, to never say no, always say yes, and just dive in and try things. And so that probably has gotten me into a little bit of trouble, but I'm learning a lot about writing. I'm certainly learning a lot about writing with different people, and each collaboration is very different. Some of them, the composer will write music first consistently. Some of them, I consistently write the lyrics first, or sometimes it's a combination. So I'm learning how to write very differently with each project. I would say that the characters and the styles of each of these current projects are so different that I don't know if they directly influence each other, but I do hope that they're helping me become a better writer. So in the end, they are influencing each other. But they are very different styles, and I think above all else, I attempt to write for characters. And so since the characters are different in every musical, I think that they're all very distinct, even if they all fall under the comedy umbrella or kind of period umbrella. I think they're all pretty different.
Well, now let's talk about one of those projects, Hay Fever, which you have written with composers Joshua Cerdenia and Derrick Byars. We're really excited about Hay Fever. Theater Now is producing a reading of Hay Fever in April. So those of you watching, if you're interested in attending that reading, please sign up for our mailing list. The link is down below in the video description, and you can be kept up to date on all of our invitations to our readings of new musicals. But for those who aren't familiar with Hay Fever and its source material, could you tell us a little bit more about what the show is about?
Happy to. Hay Fever is a comedy play written by Noel Coward, and back in the 20s, and it played on the West End and then transferred to Broadway. And when I was starting my second year at BMI, we had to choose a project to adapt. And so I will say it was a little tempting because it was entering public domain shortly, but really, it's because it is a tale of over-the-top characters who basically already sing. They're so grandiose. So it seemed like a perfect vehicle to just up their levels just that much and to actually have them sing. And so it's the story of this very eccentric family. The head of the family really is the mom, who was a famous stage actress, and she's retired in the country sort of, but kind of can't handle that quiet life. And so she is very flamboyant, and as are her children and her husband. And each of the family members invite a guest over for the weekend, and they are just the worst hosts to these guests. And so it's sort of this battle between the family and the people they've invited over for the weekend. And it's so awkward and it's so uncomfortable in the most delightful way. And as I said, just reading it straight off the page, you can hear how these characters are just aching to be singing their emotions. So we started adapting it as this BMI project, but now we're expanding it into this full-length show, and I just can't wait. It's such a role. All of the roles are so much fun, but it is a role for this main character who plays this retired actress. I just think it's going to be so much fun to dive into with actors finally, which I know is difficult right now with all we're going through, but I'm just having the best time. I love the way these people talk and interact, and so much of it is just there in the original work by Noel Coward. He's a genius, and it's so much fun to just take what he already has and then take it one step further into ridiculousness.
Now let's take a look at a song from Hay Fever. In it, you've got that wonderful main character AJ was talking about. Her name is Judith Bliss. She's a retired actress who's recently moved to the countryside with her family at the behest of her husband David. She's been trying to make a go of it, but she's been failing at every turn. And her most recent quest to learn all the names of the flowers in her garden has also been a failure. In this song, she is singing to her son and daughter, Simon and Sorrel, about her frustrations. Here's Far Too Quiet in the Country from Hay Fever by A.J. Freeman, Joshua Cerdenia, and Derrick Byars.
I am like one of my sad little flowers, like what's it called, the purple ones?
Wisteria.
Yes, of course, the wisteria. I knew that one. All the flowers in my garden wither on the vine, like me. Do you see? They don't like living in the country any more than I do. All the daisies and the posies sit know what's even worse? Trees. I've no earthly use for roses unless they're pelted at you by hordes of adoring devotees. No, the country is not my milieu. It is, in a word, it is far too quiet in the country. No one cheering at your speeches, whilst you tromp about in breeches. I miss all the London leeches who would fairly suck you dry. Oh, why must I live here? Why? It is far too peaceful in the country. Nightlife's evidently wanting. Little birds are always taunting, and those bloody stars keep flaunting their allure. But let's agree that they'll never outshine me. Good, I want an audience applauding me, and I'm nervous when I'm given too much space. I'm built to live in London, meaning loudly and compactly. Listen. Exactly. It is damn near deadly in the country. Yes, perhaps I am emphatic. Don't you dare call me dramatic. But I cannot live a static existence. David asked if I would try it, and I did, but now I'll riot, for it's far, 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 far too quiet in the country. I'm stagnating. You see, I won't stagnate as long as there's breath left in my body. There's only one solution. I shall return to the stage.
Have you got a play?
Of course, stages of life. Mother, surely you're too old for that one now. A talented young actress stuck in the music halls. Really? Sorrel, that's what pink lighting is for. Oh, Simon, do play my opening number at the music hall. Sorrel, you know the steps.
I think so, but I can never do them while singing.
That's why you'll never be around a great actress, my dear. The orchestra is tuning, the actors are calling, I'm home. Who could ever dream that at 22 I know something coming, and then a high kick, the audience is sitting, the curtain now is splitting, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. See, I can still play 20.
Mother, my favourite was always your song at the end of the first act. What's a Tuesday without you? What's a Tuesday?
No, this is not my key. Lower. Here, slower.
What's a Tuesday without you? What's a Tuesday without that funny laugh that you do? What's a Tuesday?
Sorry, do the waiter number with me.
I never understood why your character had to disguise herself as a waiter.
Don't be impertinent. We are all out fish and we're all out pie. The most popular dishes are not yet to try them. The chap is delicious, there's none you can buy. Why? We are all out fish. How about a nice potato? No, the left foot, almost.
Oh, and of course, there's moonlight on the menu. There's romance to be shared, so take a bite.
You must eat while you can. Love's a treat for every woman and man. There's moonlight on the menu. On the menu tonight. Yes, why was all of the second act set in that restaurant? Oh, what am I thinking? I shall revive love's whirlwind. You think because you have bought my body that you have bought my soul. You must say that's dramatic.
I do like it when Victor comes in.
Is this a game? Yes, and a game that must be played to the finish.
Sarah, what does this mean?
So many illusions shattered, so many
song, sorrow.
You're mine. Don't let lust disconcert you as mortals desert you. Give in or I'll hurt you. You scandalous flirt you. Your youth and your virtue are mine. I'm George now. I don't understand. You and Victor, my God. Isn't that little pair crying? Forget where you came from, forget what I've done, but never forget I'm your mother. Forget there are rain clouds that darken the sun, but never forget I'm your mother. Yes, London, I hear you. I'm coming home. Good God, I hear my audience applauding me, and I'm ready to rejoin the human race. Let's all move back to London. Are you sure this time, Penny? I'm ready. I'm with quiet in the country. I'm thoroughly persuaded. I won't wait until I'm faded. I was meant for a parade and existence. If we leave here maybe on Tuesday, we can stay with your Aunt Gertrude. Simon, please don't tell your father I'll be on the stage by autumn. I'll be home. I'll be far from starlight, far from gardens, far, 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 far from quiet in the country.
As I mentioned earlier, Hay Fever is going to be having a developmental reading in April presented by Theater Now. If anyone watching is interested in learning more about that developmental reading, please sign up for our mailing list at the link below. AJ, what do you hope to get out of this developmental step, this streaming reading of Hay Fever?
We have never seen the show that we have written now all together. We've presented chunks of it for feedback. We've recorded bits and pieces of it, but this is our first opportunity to finally see it all in sequence, and especially for a comedy where, as they say, timing is everything, to see what flows, what is really static and heavy and needs to be rewritten. So this is a huge step in us beginning to do rewrites. And then hopefully at some point we can get it on a stage in front of people, because hearing people's response is the ultimate meter of success for a comedy. But this is, while we're under these conditions, huge step in helping us start to rewrite.
Yes, I hope it is safe for it to come to a stage soon because I want to see it. I want to talk to you about another one of your projects now. This is Ant and Grasshopper, which you wrote with composer Dimitri Landren. This is the first show that brought you to Theater Now as part of the Soundbites Festival. It is now published in our anthology of 10-minute musicals, which came out last November, and it is licensable through MTI. So I'm wondering, for anybody out there who might be interested in reading it or licensing it to do in their theater or their school, can you tell us a little bit more about the story of Ant and Grasshopper and the process behind writing it and what your hopes for this show are?
So my background is in education, and that's what I did before I ever considered writing. And so I ran a nonprofit that would do performing arts, but also do a lot of literacy outreach. And so when I met Dimitri, we had this idea to write a kids show, and I feel like it's finally starting to pay off because we are starting to get it into some outreach programs around the country. And a lot of that is thanks to performing it first, one piece of it, Ant and Grasshopper, at Soundbites, and now having it licensable and published and all that. That's above and beyond our dreams for it. But really, we wrote this show to be performed in front of children. That's the whole point of it. And it takes the larger piece is called Fables, and it takes several Aesop's fables, and we sort of rework the moral and try to make it really applicable to kids today, or all ages really. And so the piece that we performed with sound bites and that is now in the anthology is called Ant and Grasshopper, which is a famous fable, but we've really tried to focus the moral of the story on friendship, and particularly, I think, relevant to today, being friends with somebody who's very different than you, who might have a different philosophy on life, or different job, or different gifts, or different talents, or any of the above, all of the above. And so it's the story of this hardworking ant who is focused on duty and getting the job done, and then Grasshopper, who is always partying, doesn't think about the future, and for them to see life from each other's perspective and become friends and then grow from that. That sounds a little lofty. It's really just, singing and dancing, but hopefully that's what kids take away from it. And so really that's been the goal all along, is to just write some fun, entertaining stories with some gorgeous music, I must say, by Dimitri, but for them to sneak in these lessons at the end, so that hopefully kids are walking away humming the story, but also walking away with a different perspective on life. So that's the goal, so just get it in front of as many kids as possible, however, wherever. And so that's just now beginning, and we're very excited about it.
We're excited too. And if anybody out there is interested in learning more about Ant and Grasshopper, there's a lot more information down in the video description below. AJ, can you tell me if there's any other projects that you're working on right now?
There is one other project that I'm very excited about. It's a show called Derailed that I'm writing with composer John Hugo Unger. And it started out as a 20-minute musical. And we took a couple of the characters from that 20-minute version, a couple of the songs, like the one we're about to share with you, and are expanding that world. It's a very zany, over-the-top, crazy concept. It's a bunch of people stuck on a train and the conductor goes missing. And so it's just how these characters respond to this crisis. And it's sort of crisis after crisis. And so this character is someone who the entire show has been trying to deny her working class background, and here near the end of the show she finally admits to a deep dark secret.
All right, well, let's take a look. Here's the song Daddy from Derailed by AJ Freeman and John Hugo Unger.
I've been ashamed my whole life to admit this, but my daddy shoveled coal on a train for 45 years, and he shoveled that coal with dignity. He wasn't afraid of hard work, and it's time I finally honored his legacy.
Your father shoveled coal?
He did, and he taught me everything he knew.
So, you could go take care of our coal situation.
I could, and I will. For Daddy. My daddy was a railway man. He made the engine sing. The coal went in, the steam came out, the whole caboose would swing. My heart belongs to Daddy still. I'm haunted by his soul. Though Daddy can't, his daughter will. I must take control. I must play his role. For he was the coal porter. Daddy. Daddy played the engine like a grand piano.
How was the furnace?
Too darn hot. Daddy sings locomotive. He can. Oh, Daddy won't burn us. Thanks a lot. Yes, life's about helping your neighbor. This'll be deep lovely. Yes, I can do the labor. It's all right with me. Daddy kept the locomotive hot and steaming.
Did he shovel?
Night and day. Daddy is like Solomon, his wisdom beaming. Down from above will show the way. How could we be wrong? I'm your daughter, and now that you are gone, wow, I'll be the co-border from this moment on. From this very moment on.
Your father was the co-porter?
They're not good enough for you. We can't all have fancy parents who are lawyers or Tin Pan Alley songwriters. Daddy's rather astronomical in his fashion.
He was the co-porter.
Daddy had a mission as a trained physician.
He was the co-porter.
Daddy had no nausea saying bon voyage. Daddy was a being who said don't fence me in.
He was the co-porter.
You can be my henchman, we'll avert disaster. Let's face it, we'll get through it. 50 million Frenchmen couldn't shovel faster. All right, Daddy, let's do it. Why can't all men be like my father? I'd be so happy then. My husband is a bother. Sometimes I hate men. Daddy, how I love you, get a kick out of you.
He was the real co-porter.
I think I messed up how I chose things. It's just one of those things. Daddy? No, Daddy. Oh, Daddy, keep your cool. Be calm till Gabriel goes. Trains need fuel, 'cause that's how anything goes. Never slack it, reach the station. Lying back in circulation. Time to get a shovel and coal porter.
Of course, that was AJ herself singing in both of the clips that we've played during this video. She's a wonderful performer. And I want to take a quick moment to plug her Instagram. I'm going to put it down right here because I personally love this Instagram. AJ puts out songs every single day. So if you love her voice like I do, make sure you follow her online and see what she's up to. AJ, I want to ask you though, as you are writing, are you doing it with your own voice in mind?
I will say that I think maybe without knowing it, I am writing roles that I would love to play someday. I think maybe I do have a fascination for Broadway divas of a certain age because I'm not writing for 20-year-old belters. I think a lot of the roles that I'm writing are for like women in their 40s, 50s plus, which I'm just realizing now. That's not always the case, certainly. But no, I think I'm just cheaper to hire for myself. So I do end up doing a lot of the demos or that sort of thing. Plus, it's fun. And if anybody ever asks me to perform, I will probably never say no. I love it. But I also just get such a thrill hearing other people sing stuff that I've written and do things that I would never have thought. So no, I don't have a desire to be the leading lady in every show that I've ever written. That's not my end game. But it is fun it's sort of a shorthand too, to get up there and hide the flaws of the writing through knowing what to gloss over. So
Well, I think regardless of whether you wind up playing the characters, it's probably a really good indicator if you're writing a character that you would love to play, that it's probably a really good character. And I also have to say, as an actor-singer in her 40s, I really appreciate that you're creating material that I could sing my teeth into.
Amen. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today. And thank you at home for watching. If you want to find out more about AJ or about Theater Now, you can find out more in the video description. And also make sure you sign up for our mailing list if you're interested in seeing the reading of Hay Fever. Thank you again, AJ.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, for everything that the lab has brought my way. I can't even, it's kind of overwhelming because it's happened so fast because I, only just joined last fall, really.
Right.
So thank you for all of this. It means so much. Thank you again.
Daddy played the engine like a grand piano.
How was the furnace?
Too darn hot. Daddy sang locomotive, can, oh, Daddy won't burn us. Thanks a lot. Yes, life's about helping your neighbor. This'll be lovely. Yes, I can do the labor. It's all right with me. Daddy kept the locomotive hot and steaming.
Did he shovel?
Night and day, Daddy is like Solomon, his wisdom beaming down from above, full show